Now we got to see even the evolution of music. Like we've gotten to see things really just morph into something else. And we're the generation that was forced to adapt. So in our childhood, we learned the way my spirit is trying to get you guys to look at it is you should never feel disconnected from Generation Z or any generations to come. You should actually feel like a commodity, or you should feel very valuable to still be alive when those generations are born, because you're now the elder and you knew what it was like before any of this technology, and you had the keys to the libraries and you knew what it was like to really have to do something. So now you the old head, right? But
Right.
in order for things to develop and evolve as they should in the right way, word of mouth, folklore, whatever words you want to use, we got to be able to pass it down. We got to be able to instill in them the understanding of what things used to be and what they are now. And not, I would say, I feel like you would only feel disconnected if you're not spiritually in alignment, because these next generations coming in, they're naturally moving at a very fast speed.
They going in.
Yeah, it's not as chill and as smooth as it was in the 90s
Yeah,
and
they
early
going
2000s.
in.
Like my 6-year-old was asking for an iPhone. Like they just different. So my whole thing, and now I'm the old head, like, fuck you need a phone for? But what I'm getting at is,
Fact.
you
That's a
know,
fact.
there's no reason for you to feel disconnected because you're alive. You're in your adulthood during the shit. So a lot of the things that's happening, these younger kids will be exposed to and they'll know about, but they won't necessarily be able to partake in much things outside of whatever their parents allow them to. So it's that same dynamic as it was for us when we were younger. So
Mm.
point is, for instance, I'll have a very good example. I was
Okay.
an Erykah Badu fan, like an Erykah Badu. I still am, right? Like as a child, like a 2-year-old, that's been the girl, okay?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't
We've had that
understand
combo.
what he was talking about at that age. I just knew that my soul loved the groove, but I really couldn't
Yeah.
what she was talking about. When she started to really start to show little mystic, witchy sides to herself, I didn't really know what that was. Now I'm an
Right.
adult.
Right.
Erykah Badu still kicking,
He still
still
gets it
doing her
in.
thing. I can now fully enjoy what she was talking about. I get it to
Yeah.
the level, which gives me excuse me, I almost choked. Gives me so much more respect for her. Is my point. So I feel like
Yeah.
that's who we are now. We're the new Erykah Badu's. You know what I mean? Like we got to lead the next generation, and who better to do it? You know what I'm saying? Now that we're adults and we're young adults at that, coming into knowledge yourself, so it's a little bit easier for to rub off on these younger generations because we're not too far removed from them to understand what they feel and what they're going through. So we're adults going through the shift. They'll be kids and adolescents living after the shift has already taken place. Because at some point, this spike that we're in, it's going to plateau. So at some point, shit going to just be the norm. And if you saw the live reading that we did today, Spirit was letting me know that we need to get used to this type of shit because this is about to be the way it is. So my point is, we're surviving as adults through the shift. When these other generations actually start to come into knowledge of self, at the age of like 8, 9, 13, they'll be living in what will now be the norm. But we went through that shift when it was becoming that. So I don't think we're disconnected at all. If anything, they need us to help them see the value in how to navigate through a time such as this. So for them, this is going to be regular. For us, it's a tower card moment. Our foundation is breaking. Everything that
Yeah.
you thought you knew, you're being forced to reevaluate. Now you had an opportunity to choose spirituality, as your path on your own, but now so much information has been leaked and everything is so exposed and everything is such an uproar. Everybody's reading everything. I get a lot more people paying attention to what I be talking about, DMing me about it personally. People
Yeah.
that image wise you wouldn't even think was worrying about shit like meditation and healing traumas and cord cutting, reaching out to me like, I need to do this, or I would like to purchase this. And my whole thing is, especially when these mandated come out, you're forced to choose a side. Which are you really about the shit you say you about, as it pertains to what you stand up for, what your beliefs are? Because these new protocols, they cannot be put into place unless, according to our democracy, majority rules on it. So if everybody wakes up to a point where it's enough people saying, I'm not getting the fucking vaccines. Like, I was tuning into concerts, you know, between was it T-Pain and young Lil Jon. I was on there live, and they was like, don't get the vaccines. And I was happy to see, like,
Yeah.
celebrities giving that type of advice, because I feel
Right.
like the more people on that shit, and then we got what's going on between China and Africa happening. You know,
Oh man,
the
it's so
get the
deep.
African people out, but then the
I'm
African
so
people start
proud.
working with them and
I'm
making
so
videos like,
proud.
I will off these motherfuckers if you don't
Yeah.
send our people back safe.
Well, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we going through a time where shit really, y'all think coronavirus is all we working on. Nah, like, one thing I learned in history is that you want to pay attention to the powers of the world. All these countries that control the majority of shit and protocols and things, you want to pay attention to how they moving. And what the way it's looking, China and Africa having a little beef right now.
Well, what's interesting
I don't think that's
is
good.
a lot of people are unaware of this, but the continent of Africa, the countries collectively have the largest and the fastest growing middle class than any other continent or conglomerate of countries.
Wow.
This is not my opinion. This is statistics.
I believe it because I've seen
There's a reason. There's a reason why China's there, and it's because they've exhausted their resources. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Them being students of history, they know where they come from. Number one, their scholars admit it. Number two, they look at the past and see where the wealth of the Western world civilizations came from, and they say, oh, wow, if they could do it, we could do it better.
Yep.
They're all about reverse engineering and improving what has already been done. The problem that they're going to end up facing, and I don't want to get political, but what they're seeing in the news is the fact that Africans ain't having that shit no more.
Very cool.
Excuse my French, but the point is that, you know, you've done given us Christianity, you've given us Islam, you've ran out of religious hypnotistic practices to where we close our eyes. Well, our eyes are open, we have our land, and you have your Bible. We close our eyes and then we open our eyes and then we have the Bible and you have our land. That day's done. It's done. So there was an interesting book, I think it was written in the 90s, about tribes. The name of the book was called Tribes, and it was a book that talked about the global tribes and different groups of people, cultural groups of people, and how they are positioning themselves for the new global economy. Okay. And so, you know, it's an interesting read. It's outdated now, obviously, but you have a lot that is speaking to what's going on right now. So it is very interesting. What I think I heard you say was that you guys got the keys to the analog kingdom and the digital kingdom. Your generation does, and you guys could be the bridge builders for those coming before you and those that have come after you, or that are coming after you. Those that have come before you and those that are coming after you. One thing that I like to caveat to what you said was the fact that, well, just a caution and a recommendation to not make the same mistake that our generation, the X generation, I'm dating myself, I'm 45, but one of the mistakes that we made, and it's very evident, you look at our youth and our children, they don't even know their own history. For like on a collective level, they don't even know basic stuff like hip hop history. You know, you listen,
We know all
if
the
you look at,
songs though.
like I've heard ridiculous, like I'm up here in upstate New York or central New York.
Mm.
And I talk to people from that are born and raised in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the five boroughs, and I said, you know who the Wu-Tang Clan is?
Oh wow, not knowing about KRS-One and shit like that.
Yeah, like I heard of them. I said, do you even know where they're from? They can't say nothing. Who
That's
invented
it.
hip hop? I hear
Or like,
silly things like Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole invented hip hop. Like, what? Are you for real right now? Like I'm just, so, but that's not something that is their fault. That's our fault because we didn't take the time as a generation to do like the Sankofa bird and pull people up from those that are coming after us and teach them our ways and the things that came natural to us. It was popular to read books and to have knowledge of self. That was like a thing. Like that was a phrase, to have knowledge of self in my generation. If
it
you
wasn't
reference
that in the
knowledge,
90s. I
huh?
didn't hear a goddamn whistle about know thyself when I was growing up. It wasn't that.
That's our fault.
Not for DC kids. I know that for sure.
That was our generation's
We
fault,
was
and it
learning
was
how to bust
unacceptable.
brain.
Yeah. Not everything was perfect in my generation. I'm not gonna get it twisted. That was the crack era. Gang banging was at
We know
all
what
time
that.
high.
I can't even really give the crack era no shine because we know what that was about and we know how it started. So
Yeah,
it
but we
was
had the resources to counteract that, is my point. And to take
well, Baba.
personal
Let me
personal
ask you a question,
responsibility.
or let me ask you how you feel about that because, or feel about this. What I want to say real quick. You said that your generation, or the parents of my generation, they didn't teach us knowledge of self, or that's what you're saying, right?
I'm
Because I'm old
saying
enough.
the
I'm old enough
next
to be
generation of parents,
which generation?
collectively,
Yours or your
my generation,
right. So what I'm saying
those
is the
that,
generation before you. Let me give you another perspective. The generation of parents of before generation before yours, so the generation of your parents. That was the generation. That was like the peak of the Pisces age of Pisces. So
right,
religion was a really big deal,
it
in
was,
their time. So you're going to then teach your kids, Jesus, 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 religion, 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 thou
and I
shalt not,
got
church,
that.
church, church,
Yeah,
right? But wait, that's why know thyself and knowledge yourself and shit was so radical and popular because it was the Marley of everything or the gnarly of everything else. So the
yeah,
norm
it's true.
was not to be like that. The way I see
Yeah,
it, the norm was not to be like that. The norm was to be the God fearing church goer, and that's why my generation grew up so detached from the truth. Another perspective on my opinion on this, I want to give you is take you back to chattel slavery. You have Africans that knew nothing about monotheistic religions, was doing their spiritual thing and connecting to the planets and stuff like that, right? Then you got the colonizers come in, take us into slavery, force Christianity on us. But at the people that were slaves that the Christianity was forced on, you were pretending to be a Christian for the sake of your survival. You were still very much so deep rooted in your spiritual beliefs, and that's where hoodoo comes from. You understood herbs and things like that, and how to, you understood alchemy. You understand. So you hid your saints, like Santeria, for instance, hid your saints, or you hid your deities behind saints. You hid messages in your hymns in church. Your scriptures in the Bible that you chose to preach on were low key codes for plans that we have for escapes. You had
yeah,
funerals was literally to leave rice and corn in the hair, so while you were escaping, you had food. So the point I'm making is then those people had kids, right? And the kids watched their parents go to church, not realizing their parents was really faking it, and they took it on as a very serious vow. And that's what I feel like we're battling right now. The fact that the grandchildren didn't understand, or the children of our grandparents didn't understand that, or great grandparents, ancestrally speaking, if you follow me, they didn't understand that, I'm just doing this so we don't get lynched, or I'm just doing this so we don't get killed, or I'm just doing this to keep attention off of us. But deep inside, I know about sage in my crib, and I know about which herbs heal you. We don't need to go to the doctor for it. That they didn't. They. The point I'm making is, my parents, they grew up thinking that shit was what it should be. So now that you got me doing what I'm doing, I'm looked at as like a disgrace. But I know that. But listen, but follow me. Cool. All right. I'll be on my Mulan. But I know that you're confused because you didn't realize that my grandmother's era in the 50s, when hoodoo banging was a way of life for African Americans. Like, my grandmother go to church, she's a Jesus freak to the T. But she also throws salt behind people that she felt had negative energy. She also smudges. She also uses the moon to help her know when to trim her hair for growth. Very witchy shit. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like my mom grew up in a time not realizing the connection between the two, and how you shouldn't lose yourself behind the facade. And I hope that makes sense to y'all. But that's the generation. That's what happened. That generation, they didn't realize it was a fake, it was a front. Then they raised my generation to go to church and feel convicted all the damn time. So now it's back. History's repeating itself. Now I'm
going there.
the person from the 80s that decided to do the gnarly, go off on a tangent. I got the locks, I smoke the weed, I do the spiritual shit, the witchy shit. And now that's gaining me popularity? When that was originally what the fuck we was doing before we lost our way. I don't understand. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that, so you take some of that pressure off your back about why, my generation turned out the way that we did. Y'all didn't know that your parents was faking it. You grew up, or that their parents was faking it. The generations grew up thinking that church was it. It was the age of Pisces.
The end all, yeah.
The leader. You needed to feel like you were being a disciple. This is the age of Aquarius. You know what I'm saying? I'm not following nobody at this point but myself. And that's what I wanted to say, just to take some of that pressure off of you, because it ain't that. It ain't that.
Well, I try to work as best as I can under pressure. So, but yeah, I got you. Thank you for that. I guess it's my turn to answer your questions now.
It is. Yay. All right, now let's get ready to get them. I have three questions.
So what I will ask you to do is to have people either inbox you or to just put it in the chat or whatever, and just have you just kind of monitor that.
Yeah.
I remember the questions that you gave me. One was related to altars. Is it okay for somebody uninitiated to have an altar or a shrine? Mm-hmm. You said shrine. Sly Cooper said diamonds are made under pressure. Right. The first question, I think that was the first question. Either way, the second question, it slipped my mind. I was just thinking about the second question. Oh yeah, the Alekes in the store.
Or online.
I'm sorry?
Or online.
Online, right. I can't speak. I'm going to start with that one because people go into these botanicas and they see these items, and we have a tendency to have this Walmart mentality, right? With everything, and if we could purchase it, then it's for us, and it's good to attach ourselves to it.
What a way to say
it. I'm sorry?
I said, what a way to say it. If we can purchase it, it's for us.
Yeah, it's for us. We want it, we get it, and there's, that's what it's about. There's a lot of things that give me that that understanding that, well, people can afford it, and they can get it, so they should have it. And that's the Walmart mentality. A lot of people come into Ifa with this Walmart mentality. Like, it's a consumerist, monetizing perspective and approach, which Ifa is definitely not that. I have a million examples of, and my godchildren are
You just made me think
they
of another
know me.
question. Go
They,
ahead.
they know this phrase of the sat your ass down scenario and situation that the orisha will do to you and for you. The orisha will sat your ass down, and it manifests in many different ways, shapes, and forms in real life, real time, and it's not pretty. To the point of alekes being purchased in a store, whatever store it may be, whatever botanica it may be, unless that place, well, let's talk about what the alekes are and what they represent before we go into, yes, before we go into that. You could take your Oshun off. Do you have your Oshun off?
Oh, that's a good way to start. Because
Yeah, we're going to start with
we're not
Oshun.
unique Oshun.
We're going to start with Oshun. All right. That is a road directly attached to my shrine. My road of Oshun is that, though, that specific color pattern. Okay. That road has a name. When you are going into, when people are purchasing alekes, it's just basic jewelry. What you have on your neck is something that is your personal portable shrine. Okay. It's been consecrated. It has the energy of my shrine and my roles of orisha on your neck. That means you have the protection of my personal orisha, the orisha that was birthed when I was made a priest of Obatala. And let's talk about Babalawos or Ifa priests
That was Gary.
that are giving out alekes.
Yeah.
Not all Ifa priests were initiated into the Lukumi system as an Orisha priest. That is indigenous to Lukumi practices. You don't go to Africa and do that. They give E-days, stuff like that. They give, when you're initiated or whatever, and initiation means something totally different in Isheshe traditions, okay? West African Ifa traditions, whether it's Fa of Dahomey land, or if you're in Ghana or Togo or Nigeria, it means something totally different in different places. In Lukumi, if one goes into a priest, if a priest goes through the Iyawo Rahe, which is the year in white, you are married to that specific Orisha who is sitting on top of your head. That's what this means. Okay? When a godchild is initiated to a specific temple, that means there is a Babalorisha or Iyalorisha, a priest, male or female, that's married to a specific Orisha that has their own specific roles attached to that specific shrine. The godchild has the protection from those roads that Orisha priest is married to. Is that clear or no? So when you go to Walmart, you go to a botanica, you don't know what you're purchasing. You don't know what it is. It's like costume jewelry.
And not only that, right? You don't know the energy that the person that made it had. So you're walking
it could
around
be a
with
factory.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how your orisha, your beads came about.
Oh, you want to
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
No. You can't be serious, right? You about to get out. You about to get out.
Let's,
Bye to the other side of the room.
let's talk about what you had to do in order to get those on your neck.
Y'all,
Let's go there.
I had to string them myself.
Yes, as all my godchildren had to, the way I had
So
to.
when it happened, I didn't have a beater. And as a lot of you know, I make crystal jewelry. So my creative self was like, Bob, I'm gonna use some copper wire to thread. And I did. I used like a 26 gauge, but I cut my fingers up so bad. It took hours. I was frustrated. Then the copper wire, after a while, like I said, it was cutting me up so bad and my fingers was like a little raw. So Baba and I walked to the grocery store. By this time, it's important for you to know I'm already very fucking pissed off because I had to find a rooster in Baltimore for
You
my
held it in good, though. You held it in good.
hours. 38 hot, could have shot the whole apartment building up. I was mad, okay? Baba walked with me because I had somebody in my car, right?
Yep.
Right, Baba? So Baba
Yeah.
and I walked up to the grocery store and we went there, one, because I remember seeing in the 99-cent section, they have those like packets where sewing packets with like the thread and the needles and shit. So I said we can get the needles because it's different size needles, and that's smoother than me using this rugged copper. Literally, like trying to come up with ways to string these a little easier.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I came about mine. I had to make them myself, and it took what felt like it was like half a whole day total, but it was like the end half of one day and the beginning half
Yeah.
of the day. So it took me about 24 hours. So when I'm glad you told me to tell that story because it's making me, connect back on a deeper level with them because I'm looking at them like I bled on you. You are mine.
Mine. So
and
not
Bob,
everybody.
before you keep going, one thing I need them to know. The reason this is the best question to start with, and I asked, is because I actually, when I had deviated from my Elay, and that's a story I talk about in some of my other lives, when I had kind of did the prodigal son move and like renounced my connection to it, but I still wore my leggings. I didn't want to be part of my Elay. And I remember really trying to move on so far from my Elay that I had inquired with somebody that's pretty popular on the gram. I won't out her, but I had asked somebody to make me some electrics, like new ones. I wanted to go into 2020 with a new set, and I'm like, I'm an initiate, so it's not like I'm purchasing something that I'm not entitled to have. That's how I felt about it. But eventually I ended up coming back home and I talked to Baba about it, and I came clean about that. Like I had ordered some electrades, but I never got them. I ordered them shits like 6 months ago, son. I still have not gotten. I talk to the lady every day. She one of the people that I say is in my Instagram family. Like I claim her, and I still haven't got something I paid for. But I over and understand what really happened. The orisha and the energies that govern me were like, I know you fucking lying. So that's just gonna be $60 that you lost because you got me fucked up. So I'm still wearing my same leggings,
That's
but
mad funny.
I told Baba about it, when we reconnected, just to be honest, everybody was just kind of discussing how we felt during the split and coming back together. And he was explaining to me what he's now telling you all. So I'm not asking this as a question to kind of make anybody that asks me this question in confidence feel stupid. I'm asking because I am an Aborisha and was getting ready or did make the same mistake. It just never got delivered. So I'm asking him to explain it so that somebody that is credentialed in this can let you know that it's not something you should do. The biggest thing I got from it is that if you do get Elekes purchased from someone else, one, they do not hold or possess the ashe of the orisha. They possess the ashe of whatever energies that person works with. And if they're
Yeah.
not initiated, or if they are and they're not, doing what they're supposed to do, then you're carrying around they're supposed to be shrines for real. So you're carrying around these shrines of energy, footprints of the person who made them and
Yeah.
everybody who touched them. Because people don't touch my elekes. They never hit the ground. So that's what
Yeah.
I wanted to say. All right, Baba. So
But
are you done with your
no,
question, or you want to keep talking about that?
what's that?
Are you
Yeah, I think we hit home.
okay?
Your elekes are your personal shrine.
Mm-hmm.
Your elekes are the shrine, are your portable shrine that is a direct extension of the orisha roads protecting you during the what we call the entrada, the entrance initiation into Lukumi traditions. That's just what it is, right? So uh, initiation for Lukumi people is different. It looks different. It acts different. It is different than what it is in other traditions and different systems. So it's a good thing to know. Other people that say, "Oh, I'm initiated," means they're an initiated priest, meaning they've already married to a specific orisha. They have certain stipulations on their life that are for life and beyond. Right? That's a whole nother conversation. Uh, but and we can go into Lukumi levels upon levels upon levels. For the sake of the Aleke question, that's all I have for that. Segueing, did you have
I
anything?
want to ask a different one. Let's come back to the altars. I want to ask one that's been real spicy. Um, so clutch your pearls, because here we go. What
It's
do
okay. You owe me because I went in on you, so it's all good.
what do you have to say about the topic of Caucasians joining African tradition?
Oh, I love it.
All
It's
right,
chickens coming
great.
home to roost.
Ooh, I see. I didn't look at it that way.
You know, we had so many. Uh, we talk about the divine feminine, and it's a nice catchphrase and things of that nature. I've listened to you since we've reconnected on your live, and you talk about Caucasians being our children, and you're right. Uh, it took two 20,000-year ice age periods for them to get to the current state of in the way they went from a nose that looks like mine to, uh, a very narrow nose and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
They're essentially our children. Um, and the Odu Osameji talks about how in heaven they went and made Ebo to rule the world. This is literally in Etana story
I know.
in the Odu.
I've heard it.
But did we talk about that?
Yeah, but they haven't heard it. Keep going.
Under the condition that they observe one of the main taboos of Osameji, which is to lead, but to not lead with arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, everything is going to crumble. And so here you have our current situation, our current state, chickens coming home to roost on another level with respect to those in power in the Western world. What do I feel about Caucasians coming into African spirituality? Well, I feel like I know that those that are doing it in the similar fashion in which they watch the Chappelle show. A lot of them are laughing when we laugh, but they're not laughing for the same reasons.
I agree. I say that about Chappelle's jokes all the time.
White folks love Dave Chappelle, but
Mm-hmm.
they not laughing for the same reason we laughing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them love our spirituality, but they're not in it for the same reason we're in it. Some of them are converting, but the birthright is inherently indigenously ours, because it is our blood that is borrowed to us from our ancestors that erected these traditions. And so, when paying homage to our ancestors, those that have observed Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they worshiped gods that were not directly connected to their ancestors. One of the things with Ifa is part of Ifa worship. One third of Ifa practice is Ori worship, ancestral worship, and the worship of the orishas. So it doesn't matter where you come from, you have to honor and acknowledge your ancestors. However, make no mistake about it, the orishas are black. Blackety black, black, tar baby black, however black, purple, blue black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I can give you the towns in which all of the orishas were birthed in. The first place they were birthed on the planet. Okay, not the Irumole that come from heaven, but the orishas, right? They blackety blue black. So when white folks are worshiping their ancestors and getting their ancestors on the good foot, because not one lineage has all good ancestors. Mm-hmm. We have a duality on both sides of the river, mm-hmm. of Ori Baruku, those that come to the world with a bad head, and Ori Rere, those that come to the world with good head. We have ancestors that are good and bad. Mm-hmm. Their job is to correct and right the wrongs that their ancestors did and to elevate the ones that came and were supportive of intent and destiny. Those that come to appropriate, well, we all know what they are. It's the Elvis syndrome and the Elvis theory. There's nothing really else to be said about that. You know, the goal and intent is.
How do you feel that it's appropriate? And I'm asking because there are some followers in the chat that are Caucasian that show interest in it, and I don't be knowing what to say. Like, because a part of me
those that
wants
appropriate,
to be like, to you.
well, those that come to appropriate are very similar to those that come to gentrify. For what purpose are you in the community?
But that's what I'm saying. Do we allow that, or do we take the chance? And I feel like in answering this question, it's an understanding even in how we got where we are. You know, the Moors.
Well, it's a great question.
Moors went to Spain or Europe. Oh, my bad. I feel like I'm lagging. Am I cutting you off?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
So the
Keep
Moors
going.
went out to Europe. They teach people how to bathe. They teach them about astrology and different sciences, and really elevate the vibration of that place. But then look at where we are now, where that's merely a memory of our greatness, and we're now struggling to get back on top. So one of the things I battle with is how to deal and accept white people, because I have truly met some nice souls, but because they're white, I don't even know if I could really trust them. And when they come to me about spiritual things, there's a warrior in me that kind of wants to be like, this is not for you. There are plenty Wiccans that you can get readings from, but I don't think I want to be teaching you what I know. I don't know. And it could come off really harsh. So I wanted to know, like, as it pertains to like Ifa, or Lukumi, or any of the African traditions, Candomblé, what's the other one? Palo. Is it hoodoo even? Is it acceptable to, one, teach them the ways, and to two, embrace them as a part of the tradition, allow them to get initiated and things like that? How do we know from the beginning whether or not it's about appropriation and if we can trust them? And I feel like the answer would have to be the reading, but that would have to be compromised. If I read on it and I get an okay, then yeah, you know.
Those that come to the world with a bad head have an opportunity to get it corrected, and you do that through Ifa. Orunmila gave a prophecy when he was on the earth and said, before our days are done, everybody that has a heartbeat will initiate into Ifa traditions. Right now, one of your fastest growing places on the planet where Ifa is thriving is Eastern Europe and Russia.
What? I know. I
It's
gotta hit the J. I know you motherfucking lying. What he just say?
it's
You
a
have to
fact.
repeat that for us viewers. Did y'all hear that?
Eastern,
I didn't hear that.
one of the fastest. Well, you have to think about communist Cuba.
Oh, give it to me now. Let's go. Let's
Who
hear it.
was one of Cuba's greatest supporters? Russia, Soviet Union. Okay,
See, politics and shit. You right. I gotta start
so
looking at
at the end of the day, it boils down
that.
to character. You know, one of our greatest when we were in chattel slavery, one of our greatest enemies looked just like us, the ones that sold us out every day, and it was the house Negro, right?
Yo, he is.
So at the end of the day, it boils down to character. We have somebody that deals with justice and truth, and that is Shango. Shango is this person here for the right reasons, or
Right.
are they there? Are they there with ill intentions, right? So, you know, we have Orisha that deal with that. We have Ochosi to watch you every step of the way, because one day you can be a friend and the next day you can have a different agenda because somebody threw some money at you. It happens all the time. Your blessing yesterday could be your poison today.
So is this? So
So,
what are you implying that we should overlook their skin and pay attention to the intent in their in the heart of the reason? So I feel like do we need to be conducting interviews for white folk prior to?
well, you know,
I got to know what's the
I
checks
mean,
and
I,
balances in
I
this.
mean, my whole thing is I have white godchildren. You know, I don't have a problem with it. I
I
love
got
them
white siblings.
the same way in which I love my own godchildren. But I'm very clear that they know the position and the role that they play within our Ile and our temple. And if anybody does not like it, you can turn your elekes in with the same love as they have been given to you. Because at the end of the day, what the bottom line is everybody has their role to play. Unless somebody got 256 odus when given to them when they got initiated, which none of us did, because Ifa does not operate in that fashion. We don't contain all the answers to our own personal questions in life.
Okay,
Oromila has that.
I say.
So it all boils down to you, one, being obedient to character. It
So
all boils down to that dance that we make and have with Alegba every single day, which is the dance of free will. We
mm,
have the choice
choices.
to choose to do the
Point
right
to
thing or
it.
the wrong thing. Period. That's it.
It's
You
just a
have the
place.
choice every second, every minute of every hour of every day. And nobody gets 30 hours in a day. Each day you have to do a reset. And this is why Ifa says, bit by bit, we eat the head of the rat or the head of the fish, which means we have to reset and reinitiate and redesign our life each day, every time we're blessed to wake up. So that's what it boils down to. It boils down to character and subduing the inner enemy within yourself so that you can see clearly. A lot of us are drinking our own Kool-Aid.
Hmm. Honey, let's
So
do it right.
I love seeing white folks worshiping black orishas.
What do you feel is the
That's the
place?
short answer.
What do you feel is the place for white people as it pertains to society? What is their place in accord, based on what your
Black
belief?
folks did not invent, or people of color did not invent racism. It will not, the racist institutions will not get broken down from people of color. It will get broken down from the racial literacy of
From the people who
those that look
created it.
like. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because
Oh,
we could beat on the door all day long. We won't get answered. They have to chin check their own selves, their own communities, just like we have to do the same with ours. Malcolm
which
talked
means,
about this
which Spirit
40,
just said
50
to
years
me,
ago.
this connects to the question we just asked, because Spirit just said to me, then that means that we do have to grant them the free will of joining the initiations, because it'll be in the learning and the exposure they'll have to certain truths that they'll even be equipped with the information to do that. So I feel
Oh,
that
there's a new term called in the academic world called racial literacy. And they are checking themselves in high places and saying to each other, you're kind of racially illiterate. Well, it's just they're just talking about, how understanding, how much do you break down your own ignorance of white privilege to understand those that don't look like you? This is a soundtrack
ooh,
of
this
our
a
life.
live for your ass. This a live for that ass. Everybody that's here, this is juicy ass
You
tea.
silly.
Period, Pooh. I like that. You really just helped lift a burden off me, because I ain't know how to deal with it. Like, I know Amanda's in here and she white as hell, but I love Amanda. But I be like,
Okay.
Amanda, Amanda girl. I'll be like, I don't know if the world can know that, I got this love for you, because I don't know how they
Well,
can, because
we're
I
in a time, we're in a very, very bipolar time.
here we are.
And there's a very, very distinct line that's being drawn in the sand of those that are going to support white supremacy and those that aren't. Black and brown people ain't got nothing to do with it. That's their own inner civil war that's going on within the consciousness of their communities, right? We got to do our part and stand our own ground and protect our spiritual own ground and protect our spiritual frame. That's all. This is easy. This ain't nothing new.
Are doing certain things or want to do certain things for themselves. So it's really even not about me. They just come into me for the navigation. And that's great. I don't have all the answers of how to deal with things. So when people come on my page, like, I was following you, but now I have to unfollow you because I've seen that you said da 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 da. It's like, did you come here thinking that I was perfect? Did you come here thinking that I was exuding myself as somebody that knows something or more than what you know? Everything that I know, y'all know too. You just are not conscious of your aware. You're not aware of it. There's nothing new under the sun. So the things that I've realized, that's all it is a realization. So I look at my guidance as me turning the light switch on in your brain, not me equipping you with the skill or something that you don't already know how to do. Everybody that follows me with an attraction to divination, you know how to divine. That's why you're attracted to it. You just need to take, certain steps to learning how to see the signs for yourself. And then you'll start to get readings a lot less, if any at all. So the point I'm trying to make is I didn't have the answer about racism. I've been struggling with that for the past couple days, like trying to figure out
Hard.
why. Huh?
Oh, I was just saying it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, just trying to figure out where I stand with it, because now I'm more upset with Chinese people than I am white people right now. And white people have done some crazy shit, but the Chinese, I'm just really like, what are you doing, motherfucker? So like, I guess my point is I just haven't been understanding where I stand. And I have a lot of white followers that actually do reach out comfortably, asking for guidance and readings and products and how do I get into courses? Man, they want me to teach them. And I didn't know. I said, in this moment, I'm in the position of the Moor. Do I teach them? Do I show them this light, or do I learn from what has happened and hold it to myself because they can't be trusted with the information? Like, what do I do? And so Baba has helped me see that it's not my call to determine if they should be trusted with the information. It's my call to spread light where there is darkness, and that's what I'm going to do. And if they're
Yeah.
not good people, then that's something they got to deal with between God and themselves. That's not my call.
Oh, the
So I feel a lot
ancestors,
better about it, you
the
know?
orisha, they're
Better
gonna
about
give it to them.
Right. I mean, I'm gonna still say the shit that I'm saying on my page, but that's mainly because I'm trying to wake up my people. I don't post what I post for white people to upset them. I post what I post because I want black people to see truth. I want you to know about how they've tried this vaccination shit before. I want you to know about how Africa is always the guinea pigs and how we're being exploited and how you come from a people that are the elders of the earth, the OGs, and you should hold yourself, to a certain standard, even as it pertains to like fear. That's all I be trying to do. I don't post shit to trigger white people. I post shit to trigger a inner response in black people. So they be like, you know what, I am black. I did invent this. My people did do this. I do know certain things about my family that, resonate with strength and resilience. And that's what I be wanting to do. So I just wanted to clarify that. All right, Baba. So are we ready for the next question?
Okay.
Or are we?
The shrines.
Yeah, shrine.
The question posed was, is it uh, acceptable for those that are not initiated to have shrines in their house?
Yeah,
Um,
I've been seeing
and
on like people's stories, Baba, just to give you an understanding of the energy that I'm hoping you can bring clarity to. I've been seeing girls that are Oshun is just so popular, and it just means that she is truly that energy, the energy of attraction, and people just wanting that sauce. Like that is all Oshun. So it's natural that she's the orisha, if you will, that I see that's venerated a lot more often by people that are not initiated. She is looked to a lot by girls who are obsessed with beauty or have businesses that are cosmetic. And I've been seeing a lot of sunflowers and yellow candles and Oshun posters and them putting offerings up there. And it's like you got the right idea, but I don't know if that's necessarily appropriate, which is why I wanted to ask you about that.
yeah, it's a good and important question to ask, which leads me to the concept of altars versus shrines and
Okay.
the difference between the two. An altar is something that may not necessarily be consecrated, although it can be, but it's not a criteria. A shrine carries consecrated items.
Okay. There we go, guys. That's good
An
clarity.
altar is a sacred space for and well, that is typically used as a focal point to anchor prayer. That is what an altar is. Okay. A shrine has sacred implements, sacred items, sacred foods that has been consecrated or used for an energy externally to possess that space, right? An altar is for internal, what we call iwure, for prayer, for us to invoke our own inner spirit as a way of paying homage,
Well, what about
using our own life force. I'm sorry?
when you say that, just to clarify that for people who have ancestral altars, like for myself, for instance, would I be saying that my space is more of a shrine then? Because I would only put the foods that Eshu likes, and I would only put
Yeah, you have an ancestral shrine.
okay.
Now, there should not be any orisha anything on an ancestor shrine. There should be only ancestral based items on an ancestor shrine.
Right.
Uh,
But I had my coconut on mine by the door.
yeah, yeah. Um, so an altar is something where there's just pictures, and there's maybe candles, and there may be water, if you will. Water can either be consecrated or non-consecrated, right? You can program water. So water is one of those items that is the in-between, the gray area. What you have on that sacred space is what denotes something being a shrine or an altar. And to caveat off of that, whether or not you should be doing certain things. If you're uninitiated and you haven't been practicing, you should not have any consecrated nothing in your home, right? You can have altars, you can have statues, you can light candles, because that is a focal point for prayer. Does that answer your question?
So pretty much the answer is don't do that shit. Cause I didn't want to be the one to say, because I didn't want it to come off like, oh, she just don't want to, share information about or such and such, or maybe judging me. And and I don't want to come off as like it's a cool kids club. I just want you to know that there's a way to go about things. Like
no, I mean there's I mean that's a very deep rabbit hole, because we're talking about the fast food society and the Walmart privilege. If I could buy it, then it's mine, and I'm entitled to do what I want to do, right? These Alekes are mine.
It's the mentality of the colonists.
So you have to be very careful with what energy you're calling into your space, because it's very easily, and you hear people say this all the time, but the truth still holds. Don't open a door that you don't know how to close or can't necessarily close, right? So, we have to be very careful with sacred space, with consecrated space, with altar space and things of that nature, and know the difference between the two. It's just about education and knowing where you're at, and one of the big sentiments with our traditions and one of the consistent proverbs is, when you know better, you do better. That's all.
Okay. Next question.
Okay. You got another question, or you opening it up?
Oh, I have another question.
Okay, that's 3.
This is the 4th one. So what?
This is 4 questions. This is the 4th question now.
Yeah, Elekes, altars, whites, and now my 4th.
Elekes, altars, and what? Oh, racism. That's right. Okay.
So about these Babalawos that keep DMing everybody. How do you know, one, what's your opinion on that? And then the sub question that goes with that is, how do you know, or how do you go about finding a legitimate Babalawo, especially a Babalawo? I don't want to speak about Ianifas because I feel like women naturally are trusted, but Babalawos are men. And so it can be very important to get DMs from men in Nigeria about Ifa. So it's like, how do you know if this is an opportunity or if it's something you should avoid? And then the sub question.
Got 10 seconds or 5 seconds, and I got to go back live again. So let me